What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to give you guys a very quick update on Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, and the overall market. Talk about how things are looking this far and what you should be watching for going into next week, as we have big earnings coming out, not to mention new pieces of data. But just note that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Webull link. If you deposit any amount of money, you're guaranteed 12 free stocks. If you deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20 in total. And deposit $25,000 or more, and you're guaranteed 75. The offer ends in just 13 days. Anyways, now let's talk about the market. So the market's doing a good job at holding up this far. I just want to mention that we held our 20 EMA very nicely as we're seeing the S&P 500 approaching all-time highs, and so far the bulls have a bigger edge. Now, could things shift in the future? It's always a possibility, but as of right now, there's no sign in the chart that we are done with this pump. So that means there's no reason for us to turn into perma bears just yet, because you have to remember that the market is not really giving us the confirmation that we were looking for. So the question now remains, what's going to happen for next week? What should we be watching for on all the charts? I'll talk about the data first before I break down the charts. So just know that for next week, we have some important earnings coming out. There's not really much coming out on Monday or for the later days of the week, but Tuesday and Wednesday are going to be very important. So for Monday, we have a couple of banks announcing their earnings, not to mention SAP. For Tuesday, we have Verizon and GM. And then for Wednesday, we have basically Coca-Cola and AT&T and Boeing in the morning. And then after the market closes on Wednesday, we have Tesla and IBM announcing their earnings. So I think that Wednesday is going to be the most important day of the week for earnings, since we have the two big ones. We have Tesla and the IBM. And then after that, for Thursday, we have American Airlines and very minor ones. And that's pretty much it, at least for now. That's all we're seeing, at least for earnings. So that's what's happening with the earnings calendar. Look for some high volatility on Tuesday and Wednesday. For the broader markets, just know that there's not really much data coming out for next week. We just have a couple of Fed speakers and then some manufacturing numbers. And besides that, besides that, there's not really much else. Everything else is quite minor. One more thing worth mentioning is the fact that there's not really anything crazy in the options chain as well for next week. We have a very high put to call ratio for next Friday, but for now we're still seeing, a little bit of a shift here because there's less puts expiring overall. So that may lead to a little bit less manipulation. We'll see about that. But for now, I just want to say that as far as the market is going, the charts are still pointing up. We're still seeing the market holding its key EMAs. If you look at the daily chart, SPY is holding up. If we look at the 4-hour chart, it looks even more bullish because we are holding above our 20 EMA very nicely. So could the market see some kind of correction before the election, or will it come after the election? As of right now, I don't know for sure because we have to wait and see. What I can tell you is this: if there's going to be some kind of corrective phase, we need to see SPY lose two supports. We have to lose our 20 and 50 EMAs, the 578 support and 582. So those are going to be the two main levels for us to at least get started with some kind of corrective phase. And right now, there's no sign of that, despite seasonality and all those other factors. So far, they have not panned out. So this could be very surprising to a lot of investors. This is quite rare, but just remember it is an election year, so it's there's going to be manipulation and factors like that. But the best thing that I can tell you is this: my job is not to be a perma bull, perma bear, and just tell you that I favor one side over the other all the time. I tell you what's very probable, but I just want to tell you that the best thing to do is just follow the charts, follow the trend, and you're going to be making a lot more money than someone that's trying to just do the opposite. So I want to make that very clear. That's what the market is doing thus far. So the best thing I'm going to do is just be very honest about what we're seeing. So, from my opinion, I think that right now the market remains more bullish. We're seeing higher highs and higher lows being made, and SPY is continuing to push very nicely. With this trend, I think that we could be looking for new all-time highs next week. I think that as long as we don't lose 582 on SPY, we're favoring 586 plus being tested, and once again, those all-time highs. For ES is also looking more bullish. If we lose 58.88, we would turn more bearish. As long as we hold above that, we're looking for more upside. So the 5900s and 5920 are likely going to be coming. We still look more bullish on ES. For Nvidia, as long as we don't lose 136, this chart is favoring a test of about the high from the day. But I do think that we're hitting some tough resistance. So we could try to retest, 139 or very close to 140. But I want to call out that Nvidia is hitting a tough area because historically, every time we hit 135 to 140, we have rejected. So you want to be very careful with the way that this chart is developing. Can we break past this resistance? It's always a possibility, but right now we're not seeing that. So the chart remains as it is. So 140 is going to be very tough. I do think we could attempt to get closer to it, but be careful on Nvidia. That's going to be a very, very tough resistance going into next week. For Bitcoin, the chart remains more bullish. It might dip a little bit back down to this lower imbalance, taking us down to about the 67,688 area. Might be a slight dip, but then we could try to bounce. As long as we don't lose 67,300, this favors a dip and a bounce as the most likely case, and we could try to make our way back up to about 69,000. NQ is looking more bullish. As long as we don't lose 20,400, this is favoring a push for 20,600, looking quite good so far. The QQQ looks more bullish as long as we don't lose 493. This is favoring a big push for 496 plus. As of right now, it does favor the upward direction. So it's doing a good job so far. When you zoom out like this, you guys can see we have a nice accumulation structure, and we're getting very close to where these highs happen to be around that 500 area. So I think that the closer we get to 500, the tougher it's going to be. But nonetheless, the chart remains more bullish. Aapl is so right now because I want to call out the fact that we're at a tough resistance. So if you look at historical data on Aapl, every time Aapl has hit these high levels, like all the way up around this 137 area, Aapl has actually rejected 237. We've rejected around that area. So you guys can see just like this. This is a tough resistance at 237. We reached that level today, and you guys can see that so far Apple's slowing. So there is a risk of Apple trying to push up higher, but I do think we might slow down a little bit back down to the lower 135s, if not 133 all over again. We have this gap to fill as well as 132. So it is possible we see a small dip in Apple before it tries to bounce again. Could this slow the market down? It's a possibility. We'll see if we start off on the high end and then slow down or not. But as of right now, the trend remains more bullish. Netflix is more bullish. It's doing a good job at holding up. We could be looking for 770 going into next week, but be careful because these levels are not sustainable. It's not going to last forever at these high levels. The IWM Russell 2000 looks like it might dip a little bit back down to about 224.5 as the most likely case. I know some people were asking me about AMD, so I want to talk about that real quick as well. As far as others like AMD go, AMD is still looking kind of weak right here on this bearish structure. We need to reclaim 157 to turn back up. If we don't do that, there's a risk of this dipping to the lower 150s, and also we have this gap fill down to 150. So I think that this could be dipping back down to like 152, and we'll have to see how this ends up reacting. For coin is once again pushing very nicely to 220. If that breaks, we're pushing higher. If this rejects, we're going to be looking for this imbalance back down to 215. For Amazon, we're doing a good job, excuse me, at holding up. We formed a wick right here, and this looks a little negative. Might see a small dip back down towards 188, so be careful. It could bounce after that nonetheless, though. For Meta, we look a little bit weaker as well. If you look at the structure, you have a double top, and this imbalance may attract us back down towards 571. We tried to bounce today only to reject, so it still looks kind of bearish. Might be looking for 574 then 571 as potential targets. Microsoft is just range bound. We have 418 as resistance and then 421. Might hit 420, then just continue to consolidate for now, but there's not really much going on. And the same thing can be said about Google as we're just continuing to make lower highs. Looks a little bit weaker to me. If we don't reclaim 166, this is at risk of coming down to 163 again. So please keep that in your guys' minds. With that being said, I just want to say I really appreciate you guys so much for listening. I hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you guys very soon tomorrow for another update. Until then, I'm going to kind of like cut this video kind of short because it is the weekend. It's Friday and, the weekend's coming up. So please enjoy your weekend, guys. Have a good day, night, or evening, wherever you guys are around the world. Have a very, very happy Friday, and I'll see you guys again tomorrow. Thank you for listening, and peace out.